Our service is dedicated to magic. Magic. And we're going to explore what we mean by that and how it matters in our lives. So I'm going to begin by lighting this candle. I light this candle for Jesus Christ, who even now awakens us to the kingdom of heaven consciousness. People who would like to participate in lighting the 4 square candles of the new paradigm come forward. I light this candle for the coming of heaven on earth.
I light this candle for freedom from fear, for freedom from domination.
I light this candle for the awakening of the heart in all people.
I light this candle for the power of love, love that transforms any condition into order, into harmony, into peace.
May the church say amen. So, since our beloved music director is on vacation, we're using CD tracks. Now the first song, and here's the thing, since it's dedicated to music, I'd like to share the feeling of the magic. I mean, it's dedicated to magic. The feeling in these songs, to me, is magic. And so I'm not asking you to stand up and follow along with songs you don't know. Just sit comfortably and hear these special songs. This first song is on Daniel Namad's second CD, which is called Sacred Love. It's called Raising the Veil, and it's actually where I got the idea for our statement of communion and solidarity with all beings, if you notice that. It's a little different word, but that's where I got the idea from that song. So we're going to play this. I just invite you to close your eyes and receive the feeling in this wonderful, new, modern spiritual hymn, Raising the Veil. Now, you know, Daniel Nahmad was the guest musician at our regional conference about 2 years ago, and he performed all these songs for us. He has great love for unity and all of the New Thought movement. So now, let us take together this affirmation we're calling communion in solidarity with all beings. In the early days of unity, they used to always repeat affirmations together, the prayer for world peace, the prayer for world leaders, the prayer for the church, for prosperity, etc. And it got to, people got to feeling sort of bossed around by having to read a lot of stuff together, and it sort of went out of style. But it's coming back a little bit because we realize we do need to speak the word of truth. We do need to form positive, affirmative intention for all of the world with this new paradigm that is emerging. So let us take this statement in communion, solidarity with all beings together now. Together, lifting the veil of separation, opening all hearts and minds to the light of truth, we align with the highest good as every soul awakens to the power to create divine solutions and a world that works for all. And hold that silently in your heart for a moment. And so it is. Amen. All right, so now we have more music magic. And just relax and let the song teach itself to you. He has a tendency, Daniel Nahmad, to teach you to sing the song as he's performing it, so feel free to join in. So today, we're wrapping up our series called Life Repair 911. 911 because it's urgent. Living in a state of despair and failure is unacceptable. It's really unpleasant. And I have a right to speak to this. I've earned the right to address this matter, to bring people in, to reach out. I mean, if you know people whose lives are in broken down state, bring them in here. Because when your life is at the point where you don't have any qualifications for a job, you don't have any education, good experience, you don't have any income, you have children to support, what do you do? What do you do? And I have been there. And so I am living proof that you can come back from those conditions. You can. But you have to care about yourself and your life. You can't abandon yourself. So the first talk in our series was called, it is just Life Repair 911, the 4 life repairs. So this is a test. What are the 4 life repairs? Number 1, adopt endless compassion and loving ways. Compassion is not limited to the people you actually feel sorry for. Compassion is for all the world. Loving ways. Think of it. Just become conscious. Everything that you touch and look at, you address with love. The second life repair is be growing, giving, and vulnerable. Be dynamic. Be taking in and learning from experiences. Giving, like today's daily word. Giving is an art. We had a whole series on the art of giving. It's a grace. Vulnerable. Don't be shut down and defensive. In your vulnerability is your strength in relationships. The second installment was broken relationships. That's a balancing act. Can't be a power monger. You can't get off on power. You have to release power, surrender power, be in balance, honor people as equals. Be skilled in apology. We went over that. The third one was broken dreams. I believe that's my favorite one. That's the one where I make the point. If you're telling yourself the story that your life is a failure and it hasn't worked out for you, that's a poisonous drink. Don't do it. Tell yourself a new story. The story that everyone has, that everything that happens is taking you to a deeper state of the awareness of the spiritual person that you are, the spiritual power that you live in. Great is your reward in heaven as you develop this consciousness of oneness with the all and live out of that. So fine, let's say that you've got your relationships going well, you've got your dreams on the way, you're growing, giving, vulnerable, you're getting along, you do well in the world, but it's still flat. Have you seen that? Have you experienced that? Well, I seem to have everything I want, but it's flat, it's gray, I'm missing something, and I say that it's magic. Where's the magic? Now, let me define what I mean by magic. I gotta say, to say that was magic is the highest compliment I know of. To say, a game or, well, we'll get there. So, I don't mean magic in the sense of some kind of sleight of hand that makes an appearance of something impossible look real. That's fooling you. I'm not talking about that magic. And I'm not talking about what might be considered black magic. Turn this down a little bit. Magic that is for personal gain, where something is done secretively or by using mental powers or psychic powers to accomplish some personal gain. Don't mean that. So let me tell a story of what I do mean. A few stories. That's all I can do is tell these stories of illustrating what I mean by magic. So there was one time when Becky was visiting me when I lived in Kansas City. She was very much wrapped up in show business at that time. And she came in to spend a day. And then she had to leave the following day. It was a Sunday. We went to church together. We're having lunch together. And I say, I just don't feel like you've been here long enough. She said, I feel the same way. It's not long enough. I want to stay longer. And I said, well, change your reservation. I'll pay for the difference. I don't care. And she said, but I can't because I have promises to keep with people I've told I would be back by tomorrow. I said, well, if you have to keep your word, then you have to go. So we go to the airport, and she checks in, and we're waiting in line I'm standing with her to go through security, where she'll be gone. And there's an announcement over the loudspeaker. Will Rebecca Stark please report to the American Airlines check-in desk? So she goes and I go with her, and they tell her, you have traces of some kind of explosive in your baggage, and we have to take your baggage and go through it. So by the time they go through her bags to look for the explosives, the plane's left. And then the representative comes up and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry we made you miss your plane. We'll reschedule you for any flight you want at no cost." She says, "Mama, what kind of voodoo magic did you do?" Well, nothing really, but I guess the voodoos hurt us. Then there was this moment in my visit. People asking me, "How was your trip? How was your visit?" Yeah, it was just perfect, and we had such a wonderful time relating to each other, and I came to recognize how precious and sweet everyone was being in their lives, and my two daughters are so happy with their little girls, and they're having a great partnership together. And I was going to write a book on partnership parenting, but now I don't need to. That's a joke. Anyway, so Becky, her partner Nate, he is very busy. He's a musician and he travels a lot. He's not in town that much. They have a farmer's market in the neighborhood that's a few blocks away that on Tuesday evenings has a bouncer. You know a bouncer? The blow up things that you bounce in? And it's the highlight of their week. Becky and her little girl named Aurora, who can say Aurora at 2, they go up there and they jump in the bouncer together on Tuesdays, if they possibly can, and they love it, you know. Well, Nate was there, and he went with them. We all went together. So Nate got in the bouncer, and he's jumping, huge jumps, and then he holds Aurora, and he's jumping with her, holding her. She's flying up in the air as he's coming back down because she's a different weight, and it was very, very fun. Aurora's laughing with delight, but it's a little too rough for her. So as soon as she gets down, she runs out and calls for Mommy. "Mommy, come in here with me." And so Mommy crawls into the bouncer. And just as the two of them are crawling into this little zipper opening in the bouncer, Aurora and then Becky behind her to get in the bouncer with Nate, who's bouncing away, I'm going, there's the magic right there. There's the magic. Such happiness, joy, freedom, willingness, participation, it's all there. And I had been telling everybody in our family, I've been saying, "Well, I'm doing a sermon Sunday, and where's the magic? So where do you think the magic is?" And I was collecting ideas, so we were going around with that in mind. So I said to all of them, "There's the magic right there." There it was. Climbing into the bouncer to bounce as a family together. And then another moment of magic, I'll tell you. I recently performed the wedding ceremony for our friend Ann Klemp and her fiance Jim Diane. They had their wedding in a community room down off of Gun Lake, and in the community center there. And they had planned to have it beside the lake, at the lakeside, out of doors, but it was too hot. It was 98 degrees that day. So they moved the wedding into the community room, and there were like 95 people there, all in the community room, having a wedding together. And they had a microphone for me to use, and I was wearing my robe, my gray robe, my minister robe, and I had written the script, the wedding ceremony, and it was a beautiful one that I got from Mary Valentine for her daughter. So you can imagine it was splendid. It was splendid. So I was reading this wedding ceremony, and the two of them were standing near me, and 90 people were huddled in this room, and you could hear a pin drop. It was absolutely silent. Everyone was totally focused on the same moment, on the same feeling, on the same intention, and it was just so beautifully carried by the words in the ceremony. And afterwards, when I sat down, I thought to myself, that was magic. That ceremony was magic. How was the ceremony? I call it magic. So I have a friend named Thomas, and he was leaving early. And so as I was saying goodbye to him, I said, "So what did you think of the wedding ceremony?" And he says, "Well, what could you expect for being inside in a room with so many people? I mean, I looked at him. Really? So I made a point of stopping by his house on the way home. I said, Thomas, that wedding was magic and you missed it. How come you missed it? Why can't you see the magic that's right in front of you? 96 people focused on the same thing, quietly celebrating the happiness of people. He says, well, I don't know, it was a hot day, and a lot of people who didn't want to be there, it seemed to me like. What are you talking about? Anyway, so he was fretting about things, other things. And that is to all of us how we miss the magic. We're fretting about something else. Don't miss the magic that is showing up unexpectedly, mysteriously, inexplicably. Be lightly moving through time, present to what is up. The Buddhists call it suchness, life in its suchness. But I came up with something to crack the code, a definition of magic that works, I think, for the way that I want to share with you today as to how to access this dynamic in your life. Magic is acceleration. Something accelerates. Energies quicken. Emotions soar. Ideas explode. Physical limitations disappear. Life is studded with magic. Amen. Thank you. Well, our statement for meditation today is, I am in the flow of magic. Just listening to that song is accelerating. It's quickening. It lifts you. It takes you to that place of expanded consciousness. So let's take some deep breaths now to immerse ourselves in that place of silent communion with God. Relaxing our bodies, let our feet rest placed on the floor comfortably. Let our arms relax, be receptively placed in our laps comfortably. Our shoulders, our neck, the jaw, the head, weightless in anticipation of our time in the silence. And we turn our attention to that light within, ever shining, ever radiating wholeness, peace, harmony, love. And so let us say this affirmation together for meditation. I am in the flow of magic. Together, I am in the flow of magic. And silently, let it settle in your heart. For we know that our true nature is without limits. And as we wait in the silence of meditation, we feel and realize deeply the truth of this power, the truth of this light, the Christ Spirit living in us, in the silence. And we give thanks to you, Spirit of Truth, moving through every moment of our being, every fiber, every level, radiating, quickening, healing, joyous energy into our lives. Thank you. Amen.